Welcome to Building Stories, a podcast where we tell honest and sometimes funny stories about construction and digital transformation. Very excited to have Adam Crouch with us today. He's a super BIM expert guy, digital leader, working on some of the most iconic projects, particularly in Brisbane, Queensland at the moment, and heaps of experience. And really just glad you could come along and join us today, mate.
Oh, thanks for the invite.
So your young years when you're growing up, were there any hints that you would be involved in building digital models or building anything when you were growing up?
Yeah, there definitely was. There were a lot of signs. When I was, in sort of, I guess, year one, two, things like that, after watching a movie, and there was a particular movie, Jurassic Park, I went in and outside straight away and started looking for things around the yard, and I started to make a scale version of Jurassic Park in my backyard. So I'm chopping up wood for the boundary, like just sticks, this diameter. Getting lawn clippings, making that as the ground, and building hills of dirt and dams. And I had like a little Jeep, and that was the Jurassic Park Jeep for me. And I actually had the T-Rex. It was a small T-Rex. Apparently, there was two versions of it for some reason. But for Christmas, I got the T-Rex that had like the dino damage or whatever it was. So I just had him sitting in the middle, and yeah, I went nuts just pretending I had Jurassic Park in the palm of my hands.
That's awesome.
So that was that. And then I started drawing a lot. So I was a big drawer. So I started also drawing whatever I saw in those movies and TV shows and the cartoons. Ended up making my own comics, some original. I started to get to my own original versions of things, created some characters. I ended up with, stacks and stacks of paper, all taped together for these comics I would make. And then it got into, I guess, when putting that into some sort of use in things like design and technology. So that was a subject that really got me, as well as art. Obviously, I was always doing the art classes, but I wanted to keep drawing outside of the art class. So I'd either draw in, maths and science, and then obviously when there was a subject where I could draw, I took that. So yeah, I was really keen into design and technology. So I like that woodwork side of things. It's probably where my design technology class was going. So a lot of woodwork, building just some basic things like boxes, shelves, and things like that, up to TV cabinets and stuff. So yeah, I had a bit of inkling there. I guess I wanted to get into something to do with building or construction.
But also you got this creative kind of artistic side,
Yeah,
the comics and all that. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, and I'd sort of lost that after a while. Like, not the interest in it, but because I went down a different path, which we can probably get into. I actually wanted, when I was in high school, had the option. You had the two class streams, and one had design technology, one had industrial technology, and I chose both. And apparently, you weren't allowed to do that, so I had to drop one to pick up another subject in that stream. And I was at a loss. I was like, which one do I choose? Design tech, I knew. The industrial technology also piqued my interest. So I think regrettably I dropped industrial technology. And I had to choose something like biology or science or food tech. And I was like, I'm not doing any of those. And I was just lucky that high school was across the road from the TAFE, and they were offering subjects to fill for people in my kind of situation. So I could still get the credits if I did this TAFE course. So I ended up doing a welding course. So it was like oxy cutting and manual metal arc welding, stick welding, I think you call it. It's obviously advanced a lot in the last 24 years. But that's what I picked up. So that was, that sort of filled my interest of getting into something else, something new, I guess. Like design tech I was sort of familiar with. But welding was probably, a good fit for that industrial technology gap that I sort of lost. And then I got into 3D animation. So I went back to, I wanted to do something creative. And in Canberra at the time, I think it was like one of the only it was an academy. It was Academy of Interactive Entertainment, and they had offered a course for 3D modeling for games and film. And I just jumped at that. I was like, that's it. That's what I want to do.
Yeah, yeah.
Because it
I
was
remember
in
one
the
of
background. I wanted to be an animator as well, but 3D animation. I was like, that's the future.
one
So
of
I
the
did that for a
earliest
couple of years.
Revit conferences I went to. One of the presentations was the guy was pulling up things that he had modeled in Revit that were used in movies, like sets.
Yeah,
And yeah, that's kind of what you're talking about, isn't it? That's a cool cross section between kind of
yeah,
what we do and art, isn't it?
yes, yeah, very much so. Yeah, and then there was, well, I guess that's now sort of jumping to the next stage where after I'd finished that course, it was a 2-year course, advanced diploma. Couldn't get a job. There were weren't many positions available for 3D modelers in 2002. So it was a bit of a weird time of that stage of life, right? Like going from schooling to, all right, now I need to go into the real world. So I didn't have anything, and I just sort of fell into hospitality just to get a job, and ended up going off overseas. So I went to London over to the UK, for about two and a half years, just traveling around, working, doing that sort of thing, getting a bit of life experience, and came back in about 2006, and got into a bit of a similar sort of thing. Came back, didn't really have a job, and got into sales and marketing, uh, which again was just another. It was a bit of a tangent, but you learn all these, I guess, life lessons in these different little jobs you have, I guess,
Hmm.
that are different
Yeah, well, everything is sales, as they say.
at the
That's
end of the
probably a take-home
day.
lesson. Yeah.
Yeah. And then at that point, I was like, I'm not going to do this forever. Like, I want to do something back with, what I really like doing, which is the drawing or the building or something. So I had a lot of, I was doing a bit of labouring on and off as well over those years, building a few houses in London and in Australia. And it was actually my mum that kicked me to apply for this cadetship with AECOM. And that was through a family relative who suggested it as well. So my cousin works there, and they said they need people. If you're interested, it's not for everybody. Um, you know, so it had like a little bit of a trial before sort of committing to doing it, because it was a full cadetship. 4 years, full time study, part time study, full time working. But yeah, I knew pretty much within the first week. I was like, yeah, this is a good fit. I want to start going down this path. So I did the associate degree in civil engineering at South Bank IT, as well as working full time at AECOM.
Yeah, right. So you start out there at ACOM, and have you got some key moments when you're there that you're like, definitely this is it? I guess well, you've got this digital sort of this technology piece that you're probably still hanging on to from your early days, and then you're in ACOM and you're starting to bridge the gap between here's my civil, this is what we got to do, but now I've got some tools available, and I'm going to start using those tools in such a way. I'm going to bring this tech to what we're doing.
Yeah, exactly. Like, first thing I thought was, after a while, like the first project I was on we're electrifying Auckland's railway network at the time. So just had these schematic drawings, proper schematic drawings, being overhead wiring. It's just like, what's this? And you're trying to get your head around it. And straight away I was just like, wouldn't it be good if we had a 3D model of this? And then we could cut our sections here. Like, I'm spending so much time redoing these cross sections every time something moves. Every time the plan, you have to move it, update the table. Like, there's got to be a better way.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
straight away, I was like, yeah, this is. I can see that, I had those skills of modeling early days, and you can see where that could be applied in this industry. But I didn't know how to do that. I was a cadet. I hadn't had much experience with, things like pitching new ideas or changing the way people work and things like that. And really, the civil industry wasn't even there yet. It wasn't even thinking about it, I don't think. We had 12D, which was generally doing earthworks in 3D, so you did have a surface. But it was always exporting that out to a 2D XREF essentially. So I could start to see as like this is where it needs to go. And I think after a couple of years, it's where someone mentioned Revit. It's just like, okay, what's that? Well, the buildings guys use that, or they're starting to use that. I was like, yeah, okay. Well, why don't we investigate that?
So here's this young cadet who's going to just change the civil industry.
Well, yeah. And it's obviously there's others thinking the same thing, right? And it's just as we know, as industry it's hard to get out of their ways. There's a lot of money involved, a lot of cost and training, and a lot of the times the software is not even ready yet as well. We get these promises that it is, and just you try it on a large scale project and it just poops itself. And obviously you can manage that, splitting things up. But yeah, so I was having that that background in the 3D visualization kind of piece as well. There was one guy who did the fly-throughs for the roads projects. I kind of latched onto him pretty quick. So it's like, I used to do a bit of that. And so I used to pester him a lot. It's probably like, who's this guy? Like, go away. You got work to do, don't you? But I learned a lot from him as well, just how, the process of how he got the data from all the different disciplines and got that into a 3D space. He started obviously with the only bit of 3D data that we produced, which was the surface. And you had to populate from there. And at the time, 3ds Max had a pretty good civil plugin for that. You could bring in the 12D strings and control lines and sweep elements and things like that and place elements. So it was pretty well set up for it. But that was just for visualization, right? That wasn't for design, engineering, drawings, for to build from. And then I guess as the cadetship finished, I ended up taking the leap to the Middle East for a bit, because about 2013, I think the market in Queensland particularly was a bit down, particularly in the rail industry, because I was in the rail team on rail projects. And obviously things were picking up in the Middle East in our Qatar office for the World Cup for 2022. Is that what it was? Just missed it. I was supposed to stay there for it, but I came back. So I sort of jumped at that as well, because one of the reasons I obviously wanted to progress my career, but it was the opportunity to work for a global company and give you the opportunity to work around the world. After traveling through Europe for a couple of years, I was like, I need that. I need to do a job where I can go around the world and work. And when we landed, they had a bit of a desire to see what this BIM was all about. So at the time, Autodesk had Civil 3D, and they were sort of pushing that, particularly in the Middle East, because I was only familiar with 12D and Bentley. So yeah, this push from Autodesk throughout the Middle East, they go to the government level and say, this is what your consultants should be designing with. So that's where we sort of really got into that full sort of 3D component based sort of modeling for civil. So that was a bit of a good step, I think. That was like, right, now I can finally see the path has begun to where I guess you envisaged it to be when I first started. Sorry if I went a bit
That's pretty cool.
there.
No, I really I love this backstory. I mean, a lot of what you're saying, I've got kind of similar trajectory, through art and design, tech at school, and then I went through this sort of industrial design, product design kind of led 3D sort of journey into the structural engineering place. But I like how just referencing the art and the drawing that you loved as a kid, you've got a medium that you need to translate an idea into drawing, pencil, graphite, and pens and paper.
Yep.
Are you doing the same thing with this 12D or Civil 3D? The problem has always been, and I think the frustration that you probably experienced is like these archaic, prior to all of that, we're stuck in AutoCAD and it's just such a rudimentary kind of medium that didn't really translate the whole picture. It's just ended up with line work. And so this technology finally catches up to where you wanted it to be. And then from then on, you're able to run ahead with it now.
Yeah, exactly. Like just being able to, just the time saving and the head banging that you have from having to redo just sections and cross sections, like that was a big thing.
Head banging, but not the heavy metal version.
Not the brick wall banging, is it? Yeah, that's probably better.
Any challenges, mate? So you've been on this journey, your personal journey. Any particular challenges that you've come up against along?
Many, and I think you guys have touched on this in previous ones. It's the people and
Mm-hmm.
changing the way that they're thinking and the way that they're going to do things now. So definitely, I would say with Cross River Rail, that's probably been my biggest challenge. We had this digital network approach that the client mandated we need to follow, and that entails all the BIM bits and pieces, the ISO 19650s, and just how you should operate from design through survey, GIS, construction, and all the activities that you need to do. So that was monumentous, really. And it's not without not a lot of failures, but missteps, failures. And obviously you learn from that.
Course adjustments.
Exactly. Something didn't quite work. So, all right, let's go back to the drawing board for that. But I had some really good leadership, particularly the digital lead when I joined, and also just the team as well with all their experience. Everybody's wanting to do their best and meet the criteria set out in there, but some things just weren't realistic. So we had to have a bit of a rationalization of that mandate. There was money and contractual stuff involved, but it gives you an idea of their sort of vision of the future as well, right? Like you're moving again, making that next big leap.
That's right. It's kind of, you can't do that jump overnight. It takes time.
It was like, this is the first project where we fully modeled everything 3D. Mostly every drawing was generated from a model. No one done that before on this project of this scale. In the team that we had, we made it happen.
Those people challenges, what do you think it comes down to? Is it people don't want to change? Is it they don't want to learn? I know it's a generalization, but
yeah.
And we're not talking about just the current people, but in the past, the ones you might have, you're showing them something new and like, this is a better way. What is that wrestle, with change, you think?
It's going to cost more. It's going to take more of my time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I know how to do it my way, and it's the most efficient way.
Okay.
So it's that very siloed approach still, without seeing the bigger picture. As like you put in this, 5% extra, then the project is benefited, 20% more. I don't know how to sort of weigh it, but or articulate it really. But yeah, that's probably one of the biggest ones, and it's one that I still get the most. It's like, no, I can do it better this way, or this is more efficient.
Yeah, so it's when
it
new solution is just viewed as a pure cost, and they're not tying it back to the benefits. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's the project-wide benefits, not just say that discipline's,
not just a micro level
or that person's benefits. Yeah, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
exactly. Some people get it straight away, which is great. But we're still there. And whether that's still higher up as well, or maybe they're waiting to see others and see which path they take as well. I was like, did you do that? No, we didn't do that. No, that was a waste of time and money. Or no, you need to do that. Or I don't know.
But we can't all wait.
No, you can't. Yeah, that's right. Maybe now is the right time. Because I'm thinking about it, right? Like this is a hot topic, right? AI. It's like everyone's ready to jump into AI without really fully maybe doing the same sort of assessment or critical look at it. It's like you saw, you had BIM, which has offered, all these savings for projects, but you need to obviously implement it fully. You can't just do bits and pieces, otherwise it's just a disaster. I don't know if it's comparable, but
I've heard some of the AI thing likened back to the .com hype. It's like this big thing. It's got so much momentum and energy, but will it kind of compress down to the real practical use cases after a few years?
Yeah. It's like, can it automatically respond to an email for me and just have it sitting there with the response, and I just need to quickly, yep, you got that right, and send, because that's one thing that takes a lot of time is emails at the moment, in my role anyway, and probably a lot of people's roles, right?
Surprising that we're still there. When was email invented?
We're still doing
15, 20 years ago.
Yeah, it's like if it's consumed all your email data over 5 years and figured out your common responses to things, it's like, read the management plan, here's the link, boom. Just things like that.
Switching it off.
Reset your Visto password, here's the link, boom.
Mm-hmm. What are you most proud of, mate, in your personal career? A particular project or something that you've worked on? Aside from the Jurassic Park model, which was pretty early on.
I went on probably a bit too long about that, didn't I? Yeah, besides Cross River Rail.
Oh, yeah. That's a big one.
Yeah. I mean, it's obviously there. We're doing a lot of new things for a lot of people.
And it's iconic. It's going to be important for a lot of the things coming after it as well.
It's really, it absolutely sets the foundation for the future of the city.
Yeah, it's really cool.
And I guess, the projects I was on in the Middle East as well, a similar sort of thing, but you're basically building a whole city, not a whole city, but, quite critical infrastructure.
They weren't really projects. They were like bigger than a project, weren't they?
Yeah, it was like, let's build half a city. In some cases, they built new cities, just on the outskirts of the main city. So every project was a stepping stone, definitely to the next one, and what we were able to achieve. Constantly pushing the way we work. That's probably something I like to do, and it's a lot of times, it's researching stuff online. You see something online, or someone's mentioned this in a forum, doing something differently, and you sort of test it out and try it and see if does that work. Can we implement that on the next project, or pilot it on this project to go into the next project?
Yeah, there's a certain type of person who has that curiosity and wants to keep looking for better ways of doing things.
And
you have to be well, you have to be pretty creative too to be able to read about a technology. Okay, doing this over here, it's different to what I've read about, but maybe we stretch and pull, we might be able to get this over here, and it's going to be able to solve our problem. And that hasn't been done before.
Yeah, absolutely.
So what's a piece of advice you'd give to someone who's interested in working in this industry, in design or construction?
I would say do it. I wish I did it earlier.
Yeah.
Maybe not. No, life's happened how it's happened, and I am where I am because of the things I've done. Right, like I just think it's really rewarding, a really rewarding industry. You know, we need to build stuff. People need stuff, and a lot of the times this wasn't true for first part of my career, but a lot of the times you get to see the stuff that gets built. Like just because a lot of the early stuff I did was all sort of concepts and you got to detailed design, they just chucked it on the shelf and it was like, yeah, we'll come back to that when we've got money. There's a lot of coal rail projects up North Queensland.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, I really found that working through the design on these big projects and seeing it built and using it, driving on it or jumping on the train or just interacting with that infrastructure that got built is really rewarding. Yeah. So that job satisfaction, definitely. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that. You're making real changes to the environment around you, and it's 9 times out of 10, it's always for a better end result. Like it's really what we're aiming for.
Yeah, and like you've particularly where we are now with things like you've stared at that design in a 3D space and pretty intimately, right? Like you've been in the nuts and bolts and
for years.
You've got a nice visualization of it, and you've probably been in VR, walking around in it, and it's to actually get out there and see it and touch it and walk around it. It's just like it's really gratifying.
And civil's interesting because a building like at residential scale has a 20 or 30 year lifespan, but civil infrastructure probably has a much longer impact, in terms of generations, doesn't it?
Well, yeah. There's like a big push now in the water industry to look at all the old, water pipes, drainage, sewerage, and things like that, which is probably pushing 100 years old. I don't know.
If you go to Adelaide, there's pretty much always a water pipe burst and flooding the road. So
that was my life in London in the early 2000s. Every day there was a flood because of the old, clay pipes that just burst or they hit it or something because you got no idea where they are. And
so Grandpa Adam Crouch is going to be taking his grandkids around. Oh, oh, look at that train! Oh, I was on that train station.
Absolutely,
that's it. Yeah. What about mistakes, mate? We all make mistakes. We like to sometimes pick one from our past and share maybe what we've learned from our mistakes. What do you think?
Oh, yeah. It's probably back again to a little bit of the innovation stuff is like not pushing all your ideas as far as you can. Like when I was a little old cadet, no experience, maybe I should have tried harder to push earlier. I don't know, for just to see what the possibilities were and try and have some easy wins, and improve things. So I think that the chance does come eventually. Like there might be some big, stuff up on the job, and it's like, oh, if we implemented my idea, perhaps we wouldn't have ended up here, And I found throughout my career that does happen. Like you're milling away on different things off the side and on the weekend, and trying to prove to yourself as like, yeah, this could work, and then an opportunity might come up because if something's happened and you go, oh, we need to change this, or can we do this better next time? Well, yeah, we could if we did this. It's going to take a bit of investment to do that. It's kind of like.
So what's the mistake? Is the mistake not kind of pushing hard enough? So there's a better way. Is it?
Yeah, I would say yeah. Yeah, having that confidence, having that confidence that you do have something good here. And if people shoot you down, they shoot you down, right? Like that might not always happen if you're working for someone else, or you might have a different leader or manager. They might just go, yeah, this guy or this person. Let's see what it is. Not every situation would be like perhaps the ones I experienced.
It's also hard that like your time in the animation world, led you to be able to, even be in a position where you could come at this problem from a different angle? Like you could be in this civil world, but now, hang on, I've spent some time in the animation world. Maybe we can change. But so there's this wrestle where you haven't had the experience, but you've got experience in another field, and now I want to meld those two things together. And you've got a hypothesis, you got to test it out. Am I going to be? Are we going to be able to do this? And maybe at that stage you're also young as well, so
that's it. Yeah. Like, zero confidence and stupid. So, well, I was. But yeah, like one of the first. Sorry.
Yeah, go on, mate.
I was just going to say, like one of the first assignments was in that modeling course was we had to do a building. Like we just modeled a building. So it's strange. I don't know how long it took for that technology to sort of move into where it got to with Revit. Like I don't know the full story of Revit, what it was before Revit. Was there something out there before it or whatever? But that technology was there, right? To at least start with getting that 3D geometry for a building potentially.
So is there anything now? Is there some tech or some, I don't know, some tools that you think maybe in the future are going to have an impact? We've already talked about AI. This is certainly going to be one of those. What it looks like, we don't know. But is there anything else that's kind of excites you about, what's coming up? Like, okay, I can see this on the horizon. This is going to have an impact.
Yeah, like apart from AI, like that's just going to be, see where that goes, right? But it's the robotics as well, particularly with construction. And obviously they go hand in hand, or they will need to. How that actually gets implemented in the real world. So probably I'm starting to lean more towards now. I've got all this experience in the consultant side. What can we do on the construction side? That's really piquing my interest. I was like, is that next for me? So you're starting to think of things like automation on site, of robots on site. Yeah, I don't know what that looks like, but there's something there. You can hear the whispers of it, right? Like even over in the Middle East, you heard of things on certain sites where you had robots scanning in quantities of material that was coming in, and it all went straight into a system and fed back into the project's database. And you sort of knew where that material was going on site and where it ended up. Yeah, so I think something there. Yeah.
It's funny, like we've all seen big hype around VR a few, like 5-6 years ago. Drones, 3D printers were going to change everything. But they all, there's this spike and then they find their spot. And we use drones and we use VR. You've already talked about VR. But they find their little spot and they settle down, and we're going to use them. We're going to use this technology. It's interesting how it's got to find its way through. It's like water coursing. It finds its way. It's going to find its spot out in the field or in the design office.
Life finds a way. Jurassic Park quote.
Nice.
Yeah, 100%. Like, already, even on this project, we've had an evolution of using technology on site. Yeah, VR. Now we're using the augmented reality on site. And again, that's come back to, not foresight of, yes, we should be using this technology. Something's happened for us to want to implement that technology. So that's one of the, kind of been pushing that technology from the start, and it wasn't till something happened and you get that opportunity to go, well, let's use this. Let's try to prevent that happening again, because we've got the data. We've got a way to get that data visible to people out on site and reduce that risk of something happening again.
And so I'm curious because you've already spoken about this a little bit. You've spent a lot of time on the in the consulting side. What do you think? And I guess now Cross River Rail, you're a bit closer to the builder side, the construction general head contractor, whatever you want to call it. But what do you think? What do you think it means for them in the future? Like, how do they adapt to some of these technologies, and where do they invest their time and their research dollars? What does a construction company look like in the future, do you think?
That's a really good one. I think
this is got to be you, right? You got to move into. All right, how are we going to build? What are we building here?
Yeah. It's really probably going to be really investing in that real CDE, I guess. And is that GIS? Is that another cloud platform? But then really using that data. So at the moment, it's probably a bit disconnected. Bits and pieces. You might use a model just to visualize what's going on, but at the moment they're probably sitting in the donga having a quick look, trying to figure out stuff. You go back out to site. So having that data portable. I mean, these things are available now, but it's really pushing that to every individual involved. I mean, we've tried it on Cross River Rail to get as many people involved, but it's still limited to one, the interest, and two, the where they use it. So still just using it on the laptop in the site office. But if you can take that out to site, I think that's where the real benefit is. And then you might need something more like an A3 size tablet. So obviously drawings aren't going away, so you still have that drawing on a decent sized tablet that you're used to having as a piece of paper. Obviously you can zoom in and things like that if you still just got normal iPad, but having the model there too, and then having that feedback to others within the team immediately. So, instance, with Revisto's issue tracker, if we implemented that, site wide or project wide, everybody had their iPad, raising an issue. There's a problem here. I think it would reduce a lot of that CRFI time. It's probably the biggest thing you could probably look to address, I think.
Can you explain that for people who don't know the term?
So you've got a construction request for information. So this is whenever can't understand this, I need to ask the engineer or designer. So you toggle off to the computer, jump onto TeamBinder, get to where you need to, fill in all the right bits of the form, then start to send off your query. That goes off, and then you've started like at minimum, sort of 2-week turnaround time frame. So it's really about getting things like that up into this CDE, so it's all in one, really is in one space. And I think a few people have already even used this in Revisto, replace their CRFI process up there. But you need, there's quite a few controls that need to be added to probably really get that to happen on a huge construction project like ours.
But yeah, the data's available. It's just a matter of accessing it quickly.
Yeah, that's it. And I think if you brought that up, that CRFI process or RFI process into that database, that's probably a good start. Because it's all like, this is what I've learned as well over time. Like, the contractor's usually the one who's obviously spent the most money in these projects, right? They've got a lot of money to recover even just from the start before they've even gotten to winning the contract. So that's why they are the way they are, right? And any way you can save money is obviously something that's going to be beneficial to them. And that's something I've seen that's been a big burner on our project, is that CRFI process. And then it's a matter of also, having all the GIS data there so they can still produce their all the little drawings and things that they need for their reporting and permits and things like that. Like they really need to bring that all in to see all that. I think that then you might get some more traction with the construction teams as well.
It's there's this abstraction when you're talking about drawings. There's this common format that we can all interact with because it's a piece of paper and I've got lines on it, and it's been around for a very long time. It's not really going away anywhere because it's such a common format where I can exchange an idea with you. I'll draw it. It's drawn to you. And I guess as we go into this data environment, we need another format of exchanging the same this and like this example of this construction request for information. Like it's a crazy concept to be able to. I'm requesting information. It's going to take you two weeks to get that information. And it's going to go off. It's going to do its thing. It's going to end up in a workflow. And I guess that information is really just an abstraction of data in a format. Mm-hmm. And it exists somewhere on the project. Like the data is all there somehow because it's all been designed. It's all been modeled. And now I'm requesting that data be turned into information that I can gather. I'm wanting it. Where is it? Like it's a crazy idea. Like how do we do this? What does that look like in the future? What is that?
I think it'll probably be a project by project thing still for a while, but it's having that as one of the high ticket or top ticket items, right? What are we going to get from this effort we put in to all the modeling and all the information we're adding? Do we need to do more to make sure that we don't get these questions? Do we need to model more? Do we need to model more earlier? Because we found that our quantities guys will grab it data as soon as they can from PD, and a lot of the times we don't always have a full model at PD, right? Depending on the discipline and the LOD for that discipline. And then it's like, what extra data do we need to add, even just for our project? Like, doesn't matter what the client's asking for. What do we need? What's going to help us? And that's one of the things that the contractor can definitely drive. They know what they need usually.
Yeah, and that's what you're describing, a thing where instead of people feeling like BIM is an add-on or digital, it's just more like, hey, if we did it a certain way, it's going to solve all these problems, and it shouldn't be seen as an add-on. It's just a new process.
That's a way of working.
Yeah, that's it.
New process of.
Yeah, it's just another. It's more tools in the tool chest for the
absolutely
designers, or for the quantity surveyors, or for the general contractors. Like other industries, they add these to, doctors have now got theatres full of technology, not a separate division that's handling all that. It's the same doctors still, but they've got more available to them.
Yeah, they're actively using that robot, aren't they? And they're to get a lot of times not. They're just like, all right, I've calibrated you in the right position, go, and it does it.
Yeah, so I think it's clearly like the industry has just got have a lot more conversation still.
Yeah.
Rather than this siloed project mentality, it's like, okay, let's cut this. Let's just keep getting into the same room together. What are you doing on your project? Here's what we're doing here. Just keep that conversation going until the time is probably going to solve some of these questions.
Yeah. Yeah, and the thing is to push those company-wide agendas or change. A lot of the time, they want to see the numbers, right? Like, what's the ROI on this, and when do we see the money back and I think that's something missing, particularly, it's something I get asked a bit. It was like, do you know what the return is on this investment? It was like, where do you get those metrics? Who's going to give them to you? Like, we talk amongst ourselves, right? It's like, well, how many safety incidents have we reduced because someone had a 3D model to look at? Just another bit of data.
It's hard to measure because you've avoided them.
Yeah,
that's part of it. Yeah.
Such a very big focus on safety in this industry. It should be just at a very default. We're doing this because of safety. What's that worth?
Yeah. But I like the way you're thinking, which is in more construction mindset. This RFI thing, it's a lag. It's very clearly can be measured, and if we can compress it by X percentage on each one, it's going to have a huge impact. Like that's a great way to shift the needle for a builder.
Yeah, and seeing things like that. That's what's getting my interest, right? That's like, maybe that's because I'm always sort of looking for those sorts of things of, I guess problems to solve, like, or you think you have a better way of doing it, or something you've been doing elsewhere can work here.
Yeah. What do you think of the hacker mindset of a digital leader? Like, I just see a lot of guys, they either want to break things quickly or they want to build something new. Do you think that goes on forever, or do you think, eventually some of us go, oh, I'm happy with this set of tools and I'm going to stop trying to do new things?
That's interesting, eh? Because that's part of that people change thing too. Because some of the personalities are like, nah, I've had enough. I've done it a lot in my, over my years. I can't do any more. I just can't.
We're probably all going to get to that age.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
Some kid comes in here who's got a new way, like, dude, we're not doing that. Over my dead body, we got to make a change here.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, because like one of the first first subject I had in the associate degree was the drawing board course, like the old isometric drawing. So we were the last class at South Bank IT to do the old school on the drawboard drafting, and it was gone.
Yep.
So there's a lot of people that came from that era, right? Still, so that's a huge change. Just jump into CAD for a start. So we've had these big changes, 20-year gaps, sometimes.
Well, I think we're over to the really tough questions now. I think we've answered some of the easy ones, clearly. So we have this quick fire round, Adam, and this is really where the rubber hits the road, where we find out, what are we going to choose here between a hammer, a screwdriver, and some duct tape? So back in the backyard when you're building your Jurassic Park theme park, what are you choosing here out of the tool shed?
Duct tape. 100%. Obviously,
together.
Yeah, exactly. It's 100% what it was for. The whole boundary of my Jurassic Park and the entrance gate was all duct taped together. And even now, I'm messing around in the garage.
Cool. Do you get out there much still? The garage?
Yeah. So I've
still building furniture?
No. It's just messing around with cars. So I've got an older car that I'm learning to try and get to run again.
What is it? Tell us what it is.
Well, this is, I think the other one that's out in the street that runs. This is an old Chevy Corvette.
No.
So I got it in the Middle East. So I was a bit bored in the Middle East. So it's like I need something to occupy my mind outside of work, because you're doing like 45-hour plus hours of work, and so it's like I need to do something with my hands.
Yeah, that's
and
cool.
And to get your brain off things. So yeah, it's been really good. So I bought that over here, and yeah, that's my little project in the garage.
Nice.
We used to have this question on the podcast in the early couple of episodes, which was EV or petrol, or EV or V8, and I think you've answered that one.
Well, I like both.
Right.
The wife has a little EV, and it's amazing. just very different experiences, right? I think you need both in your life, potentially.
Yeah, you need one for a Saturday morning coffee run, and then one for every other day of the week. It's got to sit out in the rain.
Yep. I mean, it's just so easy with an EV. Like, just jump in and go. You've charged it overnight, and not everyone can do that, obviously. But
nice.
Yes, it's kind of it solves the same problem, but in a different way. And
there's obviously there's a big topic, isn't it?
And the other quickfire round question we have is a concrete, steel, or timber?
I go with timber. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a clear winner. The old timber.
It's easier.
At the moment.
There's a lot you can do with it. Yeah, 100%.
Well, Adam, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us. It's been
problem.
Really cool. Really, there's a lot of insight there, and you've shared your story and your journey. Thank you so much, mate.
No problem. Thanks, guys. It was great.
Thanks, mate. Thanks for coming on.